Now, this morning, if I were to ask you, and I'm not going to, but if I were to ask you, what is this? Many of you would say it's a rope. But I'm going to tell you this morning, it's not just a rope. My granddaughter, we go on a trip every year with a family vacation, and so last summer she was just 2 years old, and we went on this trip, and it's a lake house, and so we have a little pier and some things like that, kayaks, and so we sit out on the pier and we do a little fishing, we hang out, we swim, we kayak, and so I saw her with this rope, and she had it next to the water, and I said, "Parker, where did you get that rope?" And she said, "Papa, this is not a rope. This is a fishing pole." In fact, if you want to just don't believe me, this is me and her sitting at the dock, and she is fishing with this rope right here. I saved this rope for the last 8 to 14 months just to show you this morning that this was not a rope, it's a fishing pole. And so anyway, she had it in the water, and she starts pulling it. She pulls it in really, really fast. And I was like, "Oh, Parker, you got a big one." And she said, "No, Papa, it's just a baby." She caught a fake baby fish. All right, that just goes to show you that she doesn't have any pride, and I'm praying that she never has it. But if it had been me, I'd have been like, "Oh, this thing was massive. I couldn't even pull it in by myself. I needed some help." But Parker believed that this was a fishing pole, and I don't mean she just was. I think she was wholly and completely convinced because her imagination was so strong. We're in this new series about it's called "What Were You Thinking?" And so we're going to talk about obviously what we were thinking. And one of the things that we think about is our imagination. So our series, this series, in fact, today's message is going to be out of Philippians chapter 4, verses 4 through 8. I'm going to get there toward the end of the message. So if you go there, just wait for me. I'll be there in a few minutes. And I want to give you 5 steps this morning to imagination transformation. Imagination transformation. Your imagination, maybe you're like, "Man, I don't have much of imagination." Yes, you do. If you're a negative person, you imagine bad things happening. If you're a positive person, you imagine positive things happening. If you're a young person more, you're imagining what your life is going to be like. And so we imagine all the time. We imagine about our relationships, and we have to make sure that we get control of our imagination because our imagination births things inside of us. In fact, let me just give you a word this morning. To imagine is to conceive or to frame. To conceive or to frame. That's what it actually means. The actual word in the Bible of imagination means to conceive or to frame. And so what it is it births something. All right. So it's when you imagine something, you're building framework for something that maybe isn't even in existence yet. You've dreamt about, you imagined about your new job. You've imagined about a new relationship. You've imagined about your vacation. You've imagined about what Christmas might look like this year. Some of you never even imagined yourself until this moment or up until recently that you would be leading a small group in a church. You haven't imagined yourself that way until recently because the devil has convinced you that you're not worthy, that you're not good enough. And I want you to know this morning that God has called us to more than we can even imagine. That's what he tells us. He says, "I'm going to give you more than you can even imagine or fathom." We can't even imagine what God can do in and through us. That's why growth track is so important because we want to show you what it can look like. We want to show you what God can do through you. And I know you're just saying, "Well, I'm just a broken person." We all are. The only difference between me and you this morning is I'm up here and you're out there. That's it. There's nothing special about me other than I said yes to the calling. Now, it took some convincing because I could never imagine myself doing this. Your imagination is so important. In fact, Albert Einstein, if you know who that is. In fact, some of y'all may not know this about Albert Einstein. Here's a quote from him. "Imagination is the preview of life's coming attractions." It's a preview of life's coming attractions. Some of y'all didn't know this, but Albert Einstein used to be a stage performer. Did y'all know that? You know what his stage name was? MC Squared. That's even funnier 15 minutes earlier, Eric. Our imagination, he said, it's life's coming attractions. Y'all, I was studying for this message, and the day I started studying for this message was the day that Amy and I were supposed to start eating right. And so I'm sitting there studying, and I'm thinking about what it could be like if I could just drop some LBs, because I got some LBs to drop, all right? And I'm thinking about what that might look like. And so anyway, I'm kind of working on the message and thinking about imagination, and then I start thinking about a hamburger. How delicious a hamburger would be. I've been eating right for about 3 hours at this point, so I've been doing good, all right? Not really, I had an iced coffee, but I thought, so I'm supposed to be eating right, but I started imagining a hamburger. Like, I got to fight this off, but anyway, I'm standing in the line at Cotton's, famous hamburgers. This is a true story. And I realized that my imagination for food is a force to be reckoned with. Y'all went from eating right, I gotta do right, I gotta do better, to just chomping down an old fashioned. You know what I'm talking about. Y'all, anybody know what I'm talking about? Cottons? Holy moly, we might have to cut this thing short. But what happened? I started imagining, right, what it might taste like, which I knew what it tastes like because I had one last week, all right? But we start thinking a certain way, whether that's food or vacation or relationships or it's negative things. The Bible says it like this: for as a man thinks in his heart, so is he. Your imagination matters. What you think about matters. How you frame things matters. It determines your mood a lot of times. Some of y'all woke up in a great mood, you started thinking about the wrong things, negative things, and all of a sudden you're in a bad mood. Sometimes it just happens in a moment. You don't even know why. But our imagination is so important. So as a man thinks in his heart, so is he. So let me just tell you what imagination is. So hopefully it'll help you kind of see it a little bit differently. Imagination is the bridge between our mind and our heart. It's the bridge between what we know and what we feel. It connects the two. What we know and what we feel. Now, just to give you an example of what this looks like, as parents, sometimes we imagine amazing things for our kids, and sometimes we think, Lord, I don't know how you're going to get us out of this situation. And sometimes it's in the moment. One day, my son Kai, he's got just friends everywhere. Like we never know when he's coming home. We don't know. He comes home for the night, I'm saying, but we just never know. He's just always out there doing something with somebody, playing pickleball. He's playing music with somebody. He's got a gig over here. And so anyway, one day, I don't even remember the whole situation, but I remember thinking, wonder where he is. So I pulled up, find my friend. Because I wanted to see, hey, is he coming home anytime soon? Like, is he coming home tonight? Like, what's happening? And so and if you're a parent, you know what I'm about to show you and what it means. I'm going to show you the image that popped up on my phone. That shows him in the marsh. Anybody ever tracked your kid and you saw him in a ditch? Now, if you're not a parent, you're like, no big deal. It just needed an update. I didn't think that. My first thought was, he's frogging. He done found somebody that got a boat and he went frogging. My next thought was he tried to take his truck off-road, which ain't an off-road truck, but I thought maybe he's just having some fun. And then the crime videos and movies that I watch, my imagination went a different route, if you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, and then I thought, maybe the app just needs to update. If you know what I'm talking about, you know that all this took about 10 seconds. My mind went from he's having a great time, I'm not sure, oh, Lord, I better call the police, to it's just a software problem. In 10 seconds. Can anybody attest to that? That's how fast your imagination works, because you begin to see things. Like I can see him frogging, I can see him in this truck in the swamp, and then I can see him in a not so good light. That's why our imagination is so powerful. We have to be careful with our imagination, because it will take us to places that God never intended us to go. So let me give you this morning about imagination and why it's important. We're going to talk about worry, and we're going to talk about hope. I'm going to share with you the 5 steps in a moment, but I want you to see this about worry, because worry makes us imagine the worst case scenario, and it crystallizes into fear. It's like water left in the freezer long enough, it will turn into ice. If you let worry stay connected, because worry is us thinking the wrong thing. So again, imagination bridges between what we know and what we feel. So if we know something, if we see a bad doctor's report, if we know the finances don't look good this month, if we think that person has rejected us, we know something, we begin to feel rejected, we begin to feel like a poor person, we begin to feel like nobody likes us. So what we know and what we feel, and if we let those two things stay together too long, worry gets involved, and it will crystallize into fear. The key is you got to keep it separated. You got to make sure that you don't leave those things together too long. In that scenario I just gave you with Kai, I had to make sure I pulled myself out of some shows I've watched, because that was not a good place to be. Because I felt it. I felt my heart sink. You ever been there? Just in a moment, your heart sinks, and nothing's changed. Nothing has changed. The only thing that changed is where your mind went. And so worry crystallizes. It makes us imagine worst case. And the greatest example of this in the Bible, I believe, is Job. And this is probably a scripture you're familiar with. Job 3:25 says this: what I always feared has happened to me. What I dreaded has come true. What was he saying? I imagined some terrible things happening, and that's exactly what happened. And at some point, he probably verbalized it. Because the devil cannot read your mind, if you didn't know that. He can read your lips, but he can't read your mind. He said, I feared and I dreaded. And he probably said something at some point, and the devil knew exactly where he kept his goat, and he went after it. He said, what I dreaded has come true. Listen, your imagination can go south, but listen, you can fix it. If we're not careful, this thing will really get out of control. Let me give you the process, because anxiety jumps in too. Worry turns into anxiety, and anxiety turns into fear. Now, worry is in your mind. Worry is just, you're just always thinking negatively. This whole series came out of, we were having a staff meeting about 2 months ago, and we were just kind of looking around, talking to each other, and it was just like, how did we end up here? Like the people at the table, like I even said, what was going through his mind? And I think Scott Davis says, it was like, Lord, what were you thinking when you called me to do this? Well, and that's where we got, what were you thinking? And that turned into, what we're thinking actually matters, because it's a process. So worry turns into anxiety. Worry is in your mind. You're thinking wrong things. You're thinking negatively. Anxiety is physical. So you can't sleep. You're jittery. You just can't calm down. Your heart's pounding. It's physical. And then fear creeps in. So worry's in the mind. Anxiety's in the body. Fear is in the heart. We have to be careful, because anxiety will creep up and it will do some damage. Look at Proverbs 12:25. It says, anxiety in the heart of man causes depression, but a good word makes it glad. Anxiety in the heart of man causes depression, but a good word makes it glad. Now, that word for word there is interesting, because it actually means a kind act. It means to be moving around. And what I know about people who get depressed is they go into a room, they turn the light off, and they just want to sit there. They don't want to move. They don't want to get up. And if you're not careful, you will find yourself there. And I'm telling you, the word says you need to move around. You need to get up. You need to move. A good word or good works or things that you do will make it glad. Anxiety brings depression, but a good word to make glad. And that's why when God tells you to speak a life over somebody, go speak it. When you see somebody that's hurting and God says, hey, go just come to Jesus loves them, go tell them. It might be the difference between how they live the next 12 days. It might be the difference between life and death for them. We have to be careful about this. Our mind will go south, and we'll find ourselves in a depressed state. Thomas Kempis, who was around in the 1400s, said this. He wrote a book called The Imitation of Christ. This is a quote from him. It says, a man is hindered often from spiritual progress because he does not strive against the imaginations of his heart. He's not doing anything to fix it. He just lets his imaginations go wild, go south. They hate everybody. Everybody hates them. Somebody didn't wave at you at Walmart, so now you think they're mad at you. But you didn't wave at them either, so now they think you're mad at them. And it's a whole thing. And now all of a sudden you got something going on with somebody. You got beef with somebody. They didn't even see you. We have to be careful. Our mind will go south. In fact, the Lord looked down at his creation, and he said, man, this is not going well. But here's what he says about it. He says their imagination was wicked. Look at this, Genesis 6:5. The Lord observed the extent of the human wickedness on the earth, and he saw that everything that they thought or imagined was consistently and totally evil. Our world will tell you that our imagination is our reality. That is not in the Bible. What you imagine is not who you are. In fact, I did some research, and I found that 7% of the human population believe that they're animals. 7%. Ain't none of them been spayed or neutered either. What happened? They imagine themselves to be an animal. Like furry showing up to school is a thing right now. Like kids are coming to class and saying, you have to treat me like a cat because I believe I'm a cat. Okay, well, I'm going to kick you out just like I kicked my cat out. Animals don't belong inside. My dad taught me that a long time ago. Look, we have to love on them. I'm not saying don't love them. We have to love on them. We have to care for them. I'm just going to say that their imagination ran away so far that now they think they're animals. 5% of the population thinks that they're a different sex than they actually are. Listen, our mind is running rampant, and we're just saying it's okay. I want you to see this chapter and verse. He created the whole world in chapter 1. 5 chapters later, he's got to destroy it. That's how fast it went south. Why? Because their imagination and their thoughts were consistently and totally evil. So that's the downside. That's the bad side. Let me give you the good side this morning. Hope makes us imagine the best scenario, and it crystallizes into faith. That's what hope does. Hope makes you picture. If you don't have hope, you can't see the future. In fact, people who don't have hope end up getting depressed. And one of the key ways you know somebody's about to go down depression or they're in depression is they can't see a better day coming. They can't see a better day coming. And so we have to understand this morning, that hope makes us imagine the best case scenario, and it crystallizes if you leave it there long enough, if you leave that vision for healing that God's given you. It I'm going to tell you right now, if you want to build your faith up, imagine that healing is happening. Imagine that it already happened. Imagine that your son went through that situation with his friends and came out on the other side and everything's going to be good. We have to make sure that our mind matches the word, because we can be living a life that's different than everybody thinks it is. There are people that are going through some stuff. Did anybody see the video of the lady in the home run ball? If you haven't seen it, this guy goes and gets a home run ball. The lady gets in his face. The guy gave it to his son. She gets in his face, and dad just goes, look, I don't want to deal with you. Here's the ball. Give it and give it back. Now, people look at that, and she already lost her job. It's a whole thing. She works she's a school administrator or something. But look, she's going through something, y'all. She's going through, have some understanding. Like, look, I ain't on the bandwagon yet, but I'm looking at that going, man, something is not right. What's going on? She doesn't have any hope, it looks like. She's a very negative person. We need hope. It lets us imagine the best case scenario, and it crystallizes into hope. Hope is so important. Look at Proverbs 13:12. I love this verse. Hope deferred makes the heart sick, but a dream fulfilled is a tree of life. Hope deferred makes the heart sick, but a dream fulfilled is a tree of life. The word for dream is imagination. Imagination. Some people can just see it, man. They got a great imagination. I struggle with that. When my kids were little, Kai wanted to play on the floor with some like little, whatever, Spider-Man, Superman, and I just couldn't. Some of it was pretend pieces. They weren't even really there. And I struggled. I just didn't have that ability, and he'd get frustrated with me, like, he's right here. I'm like, I don't see him. He can see things. He has a fish tank for his house, and he bought some wood the other day at the store, and he came home and just cut it up and built a stand for it. Like, I'm over here measuring stuff and looking at the video and looking back and cutting stuff. And I was like, where'd you get the plans for that? He's like, I just saw it in my head. But the big old stand weighs 400 pounds. He saw it in his head. I don't have that. But I'm going to tell you, your imagination can help you build hope or build worry into your life. It depends on, for you, which one that is. Ephesians 3:20 says this. This is what God does for us. I love this. Now, to him who is able to do immeasurably more than we can ask or imagine, according to his power at work in us. He can do immeasurably more than we can ask or think or even imagine, according to his power at work in us. So whatever you can imagine and dream up, he can do more. Your mind can't even imagine what God can do. That's how big our God is. We can't even fathom the size of the universe, y'all. We can't even imagine it. And it just keeps getting bigger. The scientists don't even believe in God, say it just keeps getting bigger. Every time we check it, it got bigger. Well, the Bible says he rends the heavens like a curtain. We can't even fathom how big the universe is, let alone how big a God is that would create that universe. And he cares about you, and he cares about me. So we get the solution. I'm going to give you the 5 steps. Before I do, let me give you verse 8, and we're going to go back and dig into it. But verse 8 in Philippians 4 says this. And now, which means there's some other things you got to do first, all right? I'm going to give you those 4. This is step 5 right here. But it says, and now, fix your thoughts on what is true, honorable, right, pure, lovely, admirable. Think about things that are excellent and worthy of praise. So it gives us 5 steps, and you're going to see them as we read through these this morning. We're going to give you 5 steps to imagination transformation. Some of y'all have been stuck in fear. You've been stuck in anxiety. You can only see negative things. You're driving your kids crazy, and you're driving them crazy. They're driving you crazy, and it's just not a good situation. Your work is on your nerves. You thought Christmas was going to be better than it was. You thought vacation was going to be better than it was, and you're living in a life right now that there is no joy and there is no hope. Well, he gives us 5 steps here I want to give you this morning, Philippians 4:4-8. Here's what it says. Always be full of joy. Not sometimes, not when you feel like, not when things are working out. Always be full of joy. It's all about focus. Then he says this, don't worry about anything. And I'm going to give you the numbers in front of him in just a second. Don't worry about anything. Pray about everything. And then thank him for all he has done. Don't be anxious or worried about anything, but in everything, in every circumstance, this is the Amplified version, and situation, by prayer and petition with thanksgiving, continue to make your specific requests known to God. I love that version. Verse 7. Then you will experience God's peace, which exceeds anything you can understand. His peace will guard your hearts and your minds as you live in Christ Jesus. And now, so you do those 4 things, and then here's the last one. I'm going to give them to you on the screen so you'll see them. And now you fix your thoughts. See, our problem is we try to go straight to fixing our thoughts. You try to go straight to just getting the negative stuff out and put some positive stuff in. He's like, no, there's 4 steps before you do that. There's 4 steps before we get here. And here they are. You saw them already, but here they are. Number 1 is always be joyful. Always be joyful. Yesterday, Amy and I went to Lowe's to get some wood to work on some stuff because I'm real handy. That was very sarcastic. I am not handy at all. I usually call Kai over and be like, hey, can you show me how would you put this together? And you just go get some tea. That's how you do that. But we were at Lowe's getting some stuff, and I was a little frustrated. It was a little hot in the store. They had stuff do not go to Lowe's on a Saturday. Just don't do it. People everywhere, stuff everywhere. Can't even get the cart around where it needs to go. And I'm frustrated. I'm getting frustrated, y'all. Frustrated. Finally, we get to the front. I'm trying to get out of everybody's way. I'm not in line because I'm with Amy. She's in front of me. People are just waiting to get around. Anyway, I'm very frustrated. And I hear the worker lady, who was amazing, she goes, she talked to one of the customers. She goes, thank you for your service, to one of the other guys. I looked around, and he had a Vietnam hat on, Vietnam veteran. My attitude started changing a little bit. And it wasn't 5 seconds later, a different guy rolls into another little area because you have to check yourself out at Lowe's now. I'm not bitter about it. I'm just saying that's what has to happen. And I look at him. He's got a different kind of hat. He's got a Vietnam veteran hat on too. And I'm going to tell you what, my attitude shifted completely. From it's hot in the store, there's too much stuff, there's too many people, to these guys were willing to give their life for me to live in the greatest country that's ever existed. My focus shifted on I'm talking about just like that. I turned around and went, you know what? I'm going to be joyful. I mean, I kind of got, I couldn't even talk to Amy. If you don't even know why I was quiet for like the next few minutes. I got emotional. Why? Because my focus was in the wrong place, and I shifted to going, you know what? It's a privilege to be in the greatest country in the world. I'm honored to be able to even go to Lowe's to try to put together some stuff that I don't even know if it's going to work. Always be joyful. It's all about focus. Here's the second thing he tells us. Don't worry about anything. Super easy. Don't worry about it. How? You don't focus on the bad stuff. Now, I'm not saying you ignore the doctor. I'm not saying you ignore the credit card bill that you ran up over the summer, okay? You don't ignore it. I'm just saying, he's saying, don't worry. Don't focus on the negative stuff. Do everything that you can do, but don't focus on the stuff that you can't change. Here's number 3, pray about everything. Always be joyful. Don't worry about anything. Pray about everything. These are things that you've read. I know you've seen this before, but I'm going to tell you, if you want to have an imagination transformation, this is it. Here's number 4, be grateful. He says, be grateful. Be thankful for all that God's done for you. Be grateful for what God has done in your life. Be thankful for how God has moved in your life. And then he gives us number 5, and that is fix your thoughts. Fix your thoughts. We need to fix our thoughts on things above, not on things on the earth. So I'm going to give them to you real quick one more time. Always be joyful if you didn't get that. Always be joyful. Number 2, don't worry about anything. Number 3 is pray about everything. Always be grateful. And then number 5 is fix your thoughts on him. That's what he tells us in verses 4 through 8. It says this. And now, after you've done those other 4 things, and now you're ready to do something different. Watch this. Fix your thoughts on what is true, what is honorable, what is right, what is pure, what is lovely, and what is admirable, and think about things that are excellent and worthy of praise. That's your filter. That's the filter that God gives you. God gives you this filter right here, that you're going to focus on these things and not the negative things. You want to focus on the things that God's doing for you and not what the enemy's trying to do against you. You need to focus on hope and not worry. Fix your thoughts on him. There's a promise that comes with this I want to give you this morning. It's one of my favorite verses. I think it might be my dad's favorite verse in the Bible. Here it is, Isaiah 26:3. You got to write this down. If you don't take notes, write it down anyway. You got to write this verse down. I'm telling you, it will help you get through this week, this month, this year. You will keep in perfect peace all who trust in you and whose thoughts, imaginations are fixed on you. He will keep you in perfect peace. Some of y'all don't even have imperfect peace. You don't even have a piece of peace. You don't even have he's saying, I want you to imagine. I want you to think about me. I want you to think about what I'm doing. I want you to imagine. I want you to imagine what God can be doing. Y'all, I don't know if you know this morning, but I imagine every single Sunday morning. I imagine it. I have a vision that God's given me for what every Sunday looks like. And we talk about it in our staff meetings, and we talk about it with our leadership, and we have huddles to talk about it. Y'all, I imagine that God is going to move. I imagine an amazing parking team that high-fives you and smiles at you as you pull into the parking lot. I imagine a greeter team that wants to just smile and give you a handshake or a hug. I imagine a security team, a safe team that's going to keep us safe from any kind of attack from the enemy. I imagine an usher team that wants to help you find your seat. I imagine this morning the Next Steps team ready to tell you what your next step might be. I imagine an amazing cafe team that loves you through caffeine and a smile. I imagine a check-in team that says hi to your family, and maybe your little kid gets it's my birthday week sticker. I imagine a nursery team that loves prayerfully and playfully with your kids. I imagine a pre-K team that bounces off the walls with the little ones. I imagine a kids' church team that pours basic principles of Jesus and who he is into their life and the foundation of who they are so they can live with it forever. I imagine a creative team that captures these moments in videos and pictures. I imagine a production team that helps us encounter Jesus through the production of the screens that are behind me and the sound. I imagine a worship team that helps us with one voice say, Jesus, you're worthy, you're worthy, you're worthy. I imagine a baptism team that helps you get down to the water and get back up and celebrates what Jesus did in your life. I imagine a prayer team that loves on you and prays for you and wants to see miracles in your life. I imagine a growth track team that helps you take your next steps with him. Imagine an amazing students team that gets this next generation ready for the war that's coming to them. Imagine life group leaders helping you find freedom in circles and living rooms. Imagine an amazing outreach team that goes and loves on your family and your friends and shows them that Jesus loves them. I'll imagine the events team that gets our place ready and through decorations for different events that come up, like the holidays and at the movies. Imagine a facility teams that change out AC vents and light bulbs with joy and excellence. Imagine a legacy team that pours everything that they have into the future of the church by pouring gasoline through finances on the vision of the church. Will God move? I imagine he will. I imagine he will. I dream this up every week. I have a vision for you to take next steps with Jesus. I have a vision for you to go through those waters. I have a vision for you to go through next steps. A vision for you to get on a team and start serving somebody. Will God move? I imagine so. Will you say yes if he calls you?